as well. Have a good day.
The rest of the wide receiver group is underwhelming. Kincaid's had some moments. They need a playmaker in the worst way this offseason. I know they keep trying to get it done or pick these guys off. Maybe Keon Coleman will be that guy. Maybe Josh Palmer will be that guy. It's not working. They haven't replaced Stephon Diggs, and it shows. And I think Josh Allen could use some help. So Buffalo Bills in the offseason, free agency, NFL draft, get yourself a big playmaker.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Notre Dame playing very well, in a position to crack the top 12. Now they have to take care of business.
Here's what I want from and again, we're going to go over who we think is actually going to make the playoffs here a little bit later in the show. But understand this, Joe. I don't want any ACC in there. I don't want any Big 12 in there. Just give me the Big 10 and the SEC. And Mike, quite frankly, if you just gave me Ohio State, Indiana, and the rest of the SEC, boom, boom.
Nah.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Let me ask you this. If they brought in Belichick, you don't think that... Yeah.
Oh, of North Carolina?
Yeah, they're playing much better now.
I wouldn't let him coach my kids. I don't even have any.
I tell you what, they would be more disciplined than what they are now.
No, they wouldn't. They'd be lifeless.
Yes, they would.
They'd be lifeless.
Yes, Brian Dable is a gutless head coach.
Bill Belichick came off a bye against
Gutless
Clemson.
head coach.
3 plays in, they gave him 150 yards.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
But here we go. This is like, Pet Sematary. You guys don't remember this movie from the 1980s. But look, goodbye Tom Brady, I guess, wants to keep the generation alive. Couldn't he just have had this dog breed and just take the puppy of some kind? I don't know. But hey, Tom Brady does different things. Maybe this is just a signal for cloning in the future for humans. I'm not really sure here.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Nico fired by the Mavericks, plus the drama with LSU and Brian Kelly intensifies. Front Office Sports Today starts now. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Front Office Sports Today, your look inside the stories that are shaping the business and culture of sports. I'm Baker Machado here at Front Office Sports Studios in New York City, and this podcast is brought to you by Invesco QQQ. Changing the game has always been our game. You can access NASDAQ 100 companies in one ETF, Invesco Distributors, Inc. Now, coming up on the show, the Mavericks finally fired their embattled general manager, Nico Harrison, this 9 months after they traded star Luka Doncic. Plus, Cardinals offensive lineman Kelvin Beachum is going to join us to celebrate Veterans Day later on. But let's start with the latest drama over at LSU with former head football coach Brian Kelly, all in today's very big main event. Well, just days after former LSU head football coach Brian Kelly informed the school to fulfill its contractual obligation to pay him the full $54 million buyout from his contract, this after he was fired by the school, LSU has now filed their own legal paperwork. They allege that Kelly was removed for cause, and that would avoid them paying out the second largest coaching buyout in college history. So let's bring in Front Office Sports college sports reporter Amanda Kristovich. So Amanda, what happened over the last little while that it escalated to this point?
So I just obtained a copy of the court filing, and according to that, there was a meeting on November 10th, so yesterday, between LSU officials and Brian Kelly's representatives where basically LSU took the position that you just explained, that actually he hadn't been formally fired and he had been fired for cause, which in the parlance of these, coaching contracts means that you're not owed the buyout. Being fired without cause is actually what it means in this parlance, to be fired because you did not do a good job coaching your team, interestingly enough.
Right, which was, by the way, that's what they claimed originally, why he was fired.
Exactly, and the lawsuit explains in multiple ways how publicly and privately they said this, that they were affirming that he was fired without cause, and then all of a sudden in this meeting yesterday, they said they believed that there were reasons why they might take the position he was fired for cause and that he wouldn't be owed any of the buyout. And the lawsuit was filed hours later.
Interesting also because in the lawsuit they claim that they had been negotiating a smaller buyout for him, maybe between $20 and $30 million. How much of this has to do with the fact that Kelly rejected those offers and was seeking the full buyout here?
I'm not sure, because the lawsuit did confirm that the court documents confirmed that he was offered $25 million in the day he was fired, and then later that day offered $30 million in a lump sum. And his representatives declined that offer, but they did say that they were open to other negotiations. They didn't say all or nothing. So I find it a bit strange that all of a sudden they went from, we'll offer you $30 million in a lump sum, to nothing, especially when he does have a duty to mitigate an offset clause, which means that whenever he gets a new job, LSU only owes him the difference between what the buyout money is and what his new salary is. So they really wouldn't, it's possible that if they agreed to pay him the full buyout, they wouldn't have to pay up to 25 or 30 million, because he's being paid in incremental monthly installments.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
How much also, and you've reported extensively on this, is the governor of Louisiana, Jeff Landry, a part of this, given the fact that he has been outspoken in saying that the money was mismanaged in terms of how he doesn't want to spend that kind of money again on a coach or all of that. Mm-hmm. So how much of it has to do with the governor here?
Really interesting, kind of buried in the court filing, was this allegation that the governor's office was going to reach out to Brian Kelly to discuss the terms of his buyout. There was a letter that Kelly's representatives sent to LSU and said, Kelly has told us, his representatives, that someone from the board or the governor's office will reach out to him. But we don't think we need a meeting unless you have another offer for us, et cetera, basically. There was another part of that court filing that cited an email sent by Verge Osbury, the current athletic director, who denied that the governor's office had ever told Kelly they'd reach out to him. So that's sort of strange, but it does imply that Governor Landry continues to be involved in these buyout conversations, as he has said he would be.
We have about 40 seconds left. Does this situation deter anybody maybe from wanting to take the LSU job just because sort of the mess that's been coming out of this?
I think it's a major concern for any coach and their agent, but I will say that it just means that these agents are going to author even more ironclad contracts with potentially even bigger buyouts.
Interesting. Amanda Kristovich, good stuff as always. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, the Dallas Mavericks fired embattled general manager Nico Harrison. This as the Fire Nico chants from fans intensified. This is the last place Mavericks have struggled since Harrison traded star Luka Doncic about 9 months ago. So let's bring in FOS reporter Colin Salau. So Colin, what finally led the Mavericks to fire Nico Harrison?
Yeah, I think it was a mixture of just time and obviously the performance of the Mavericks to start this year. I think Patrick Dumont was, as we remember, a little bit defensive of Nico Harrison when he first made this trade. I think Zach Lowe was the one who tweeted today saying, well, Dumont acknowledged the fact that he reportedly said yes to this, but I think it might have changed tunes. And I think you felt that a little bit when Nico Harrison late last year essentially acknowledged that he didn't realize the impact that this trade would have, not just on the team from a performance standpoint, but also from the city of Dallas and what they would feel and the reaction around would feel about losing a 25-year-old superstar that they drafted in 2018. So I think it's just all of those things coming together, and then obviously a 3-8 start to this year when Nico Harrison said last season that they were a win-now team after the trade.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were obviously confused by the trade, obviously, but then it put more pressure on the Mavericks to sort of win in the window of Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving, and then obviously you add Cooper Flagg into all of that. Do you think it was specifically because of how bad they've played, or how much do you also think it's Luka and the Lakers doing so well?
Yeah, I think Luka and the Lakers doing so well is contributing to the reaction of the fans. I just, looked at this stat. The Mavs are 16-28 since February 1st, 2025 of this year. That is their record, from last season spilling into the start of this year. The Lakers are 31-16 and are currently in the top 4 in the Western Conference. And Luka, this lit a fire under him. He's averaging 40 points to start this year amid, maybe he's not so healthy early on, but he looks like he could potentially be the MVP of the league, or at least one of the 3 leading candidates. I'm sure that contributed to all of this. But I think the Mavs are also looking at themselves and seeing, well, it would be nice if we were at least, competing. They're not. They are set for the lottery this year.
So where do the Mavericks go in this situation? There's been a lot of speculation on social media. Do they promote head coach Jason Kidd to a front office role? Do they maybe find somebody else out there? What do you think the Mavericks do here?
Yeah. So first and foremost, they are going to promote assistant GMs Michael Finley and Matt Riccardi to an interim role as the lead basketball operations. That is according to ESPN. But the next step is really finding the permanent person who will take over that role. Mark Stein, who was one of the first in terms of reporting all of this, he is based in Dallas. He is one of the most in tune with Dallas, said that he thinks that there are people in the organization who want Dennis Lindsay back. Dennis Lindsay is the vice president for basketball operations, senior vice president for basketball operations of the Pistons. And we see the Pistons number one in the East right now. He was also a senior advisor for Nico Harrison in the 2023-24 season. So he would, is familiar obviously with Dallas, would probably be perfect for an executive role to take over in Dallas and with the Mavericks.
Also, you have to think in the last 30 seconds or so, the fact that they're playing Cooper Flagg at point guard, how that hasn't really worked out either.
Yeah, I think whoever is going to take over has to answer the question of what's next for the team, right? This was supposed to be a win now team with Kyrie Irving, with Anthony Davis, and then they weren't, Cooper Flagg wasn't in the plans. They found pieces like PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford who were supposed to be win now pieces, but they now have, people for the future. Will they, pivot towards that and go for the lottery this year is the question.
Very good point. Colin Salau, thank you so much. We got more Front Office Sports today right after this.
Notre Dame playing very well, in a position to crack the top 12. Now they have to take care of business.
Here's what I want from and again, we're going to go over who we think is actually going to make the playoffs here a little bit later in the show. But understand this, Joe. I don't want any ACC in there. I don't want any Big 12 in there. Just give me the Big 10 and the SEC. And Mike, quite frankly, if you just gave me Ohio State, Indiana, and the rest of the SEC, boom, boom.
Nah.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
It is a sickness in this league. They stink, and they should stink next year. That's it.
But the expectation is to be a 9-8 football team.
So let's shake it. Why is that the expectation? They're garbage. And traded away two of the few good guys they have.
But they're going to get how many draft picks in the first round? 3 next year?
Two.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Brissett has been that good. So this is a quarterback that I think is worth acquiring, but especially in Superflex leagues. If somebody's already got QBs passed by and Brissett's just collecting dust on somebody's bench, go out there, get him, because I think the next 4 weeks, some of the matchups too, he gets Jacksonville, he gets San Francisco, he gets Tampa. Those are going to be some higher scoring games potentially. Good news for fantasy managers who are trying to get Jacoby Brissett.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Today's prop was 15, right? And he's at 44. If you altered him to 20 or 25 plus, those are some big numbers. Like 15 and a half, like Jack Besh this morning was 11 and a half, and his number got bet up to 15 and a half. Tyler Lockett was 16 and a half and bet down to 15 and a half. If you just took a shot, like 15 to 25 is nothing. And next week, his number's not going to be 15.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today. I'm Baker Machado here in New York City, and happy Veterans Day. And earlier, I got the chance to speak with Arizona Cardinals star Kelvin Beachum about this amazing day. Take a look. Well, this Veterans Day, USAA is going beyond thanks with the launch of Honor Through Action. This is a $500 million commitment over the next 5 years to strengthen the military community. So let's bring in NFL veteran and current offensive tackle over at the Arizona Cardinals, Kelvin Beachum. Kelvin, great to see you as always. So tell us a little bit about your connection to the military and the military members that you have in your life.
Man, I'm blessed and fortunate to have so many military members, those that are active, those that are deceased, those that are still serving as reserved. that have provided this opportunity for me to play this great game, but also serve our great country. So whether it's immediate family, cousins, uncles, great uncles, which I've had a number of great uncles that served in World War II in Vietnam. So man, just excited to be able to honor them with the time that we usually set aside every year during this time of the year to really honor them and be able to just continue the legacy that they provided, being able to serve our country, and then also been able to serve their communities as well.
Yeah, I too have family members who either served or are currently serving in armed forces right now, so I totally get that. Let's talk about your connection to the military. How does it sort of shape your approach to your everyday life, but also how you sort of connect with your teammates as well?
At the end of the day, you have people that are serving and giving their lives for something that's bigger than themselves. And when you think about that in relation to football, this is not war. This is not life threatening, but you have people that are coming together from all different walks of life that are coming together for a mission, and that's winning a game on Sunday. So, there's a lot of parallels between people that are wanting to, kind of die to themselves and do what's best for the mission at the end of the day. And at the end, in our game, in our profession, it's about finding ways to win games. And I think very similar to the military, you have people that are different ethnicities, different religions, different backgrounds, different social economic backgrounds, and you have the same thing in the locker room. Different religions, different ethnicities, different, socioeconomic backgrounds that all come together to find a way to work together. And I think more than anything, what the military has done and exceeded at is finding ways to work together in spite of what's going on around us. And I think you think about the same thing within a football locker room is you can't think about all the external factors that are happening. You got to focus on what's in the locker room, focus on what you can do together, and find a way to accomplish something together. And I think when you think about both the military and sports, there's that collaboration and that togetherness that's so important.
Calvin, you have been a Walter Payton Award nominee. How have you sort of used your NFL platform to highlight the military community?
But just being a nominee, it really does lend itself to the opportunity to really highlight things that you find to be important. And I've been blessed, like I said at the onset, that I've had great family members, both immediate cousins and things of that nature, those that are in reserve right now, that continue to serve our country. So as a nominee, you have the opportunity and the platform to really just highlight them, to use this platform to really shift the awareness to the people that may not, get to hear about themselves too often. And, think about, the pleasures that we have in this country right now, the fact that we're having a communication digitally, and we're not worried about anything that's coming over our heads or planes or bombs or any of those things. Like, that's a great place to be, knowing that people that we know well have served to ensure the freedoms that we have here in America today.
How would you say the NFL's relationship is with the military community, and how did they sort of highlight a lot of these stories and connections like players like yourself have to the community?
I think you have, here in Arizona, you have, people that actually played in the National Football League, played for the Arizona Cardinals, and also served in the military. So when you have those types of real relationships and real stories, it really does lend itself to allowing us to talk about the connection in a very organic manner. You have you mentioned USAA, the work that they've done with the National Football League. Some of it is funny. I think the storytelling has really provided a great platform to really just talk about how important the military is and how we need each other. When things that have happened in America have happened in our history, you've had football and sport to be able to bring people back together. When you've had, again, some of the things that have taken place around our sport that needed the military, you have the military that's there to protect us. So those things go hand in hand as far as that collaboration between the two.
Obviously, you play with the Arizona Cardinals, and famously, Pat Tillman, probably one of the most famous military members of the NFL. How would you say the Cardinals have sort of continued to honor his legacy and continue to keep his name alive?
You actually walk by they actually have a glass case of his jersey that you walk by every day in the building. So it is a consistent reminder. And then one of the things that Coach Gannon does is every week he honors the Pat Tillman Player of the Week, somebody that's practiced just extremely hard. And that number 40 is given to that particular player during that week. So it is something that we in the organization take a lot of pride in and see it every single day. So we see that number 40 in practice, every single practice. And then literally we walk by that case that has his jersey and talks about his legacy and his impact on a consistent basis as well.
As I mentioned at the top, USAA donating $500 million over the next 5 years to strengthen the military community. Let's talk about the importance of these funding initiatives, Kelvin, like what USAA is doing, and how important these are.
I think more now than ever, we as a entire kind of society, especially Americans, need to just realize how important our military is, and to see them receiving these types of funds, that it's impacting people at a granular level and at a macro level. You think about what's going on in society right now with, kind of the government shutdown right now. Who is it impacting? It's impacting a lot of Americans, but it's also impacting a lot of our veterans. So to see USA stepping in the gap and being able to provide something of this magnitude, especially, it's going to impact a number of folks.
Obviously, Veterans Day right around the corner. What do you do to sort of celebrate Veterans Day? And what are you planning to do this year on Veterans Day?
Man, anytime I can spend time with family, that's always special. Like I said, have a number of folks that are still serving. So always have opportunity to just shoot them a kind note. But for me, it's always been able to start and check on family, those who have served and those who are currently serving. And just seeing, engaging where they're at, talking with family about them. But anytime you can be able to highlight those that are near and dear to you during this time of year, I think it's so important.
Amen. So well said. Offensive tackle for the Arizona Cardinals, Kelvin Beachum. Kelvin, always a pleasure to have you here with us at Front Office Sports. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Anytime, Baker. Thanks so much.
And, of course, our special thanks to Kelvin Beachum, and, of course, happy Veterans Day to all of those who serve our country. And coming up next, everyone, on Front Office Sports today, UCLA getting sued by the Rose Bowl. This is the attempt to flee to go to SoFi Stadium, plus the latest on the MLB gambling investigation. We have the FOS water cooler coming up right after this.
We now have to figure out if they will be in the playoffs. They're the Super Bowl favorite and have shorter odds to miss the postseason as you and I sit here right now.
Right, but let me ask you this. Do you feel after this 5-4 record, 9 weeks, 10 weeks of the regular season, that their defense is as dominant as it was last year?
But the offense is better.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Fly Pelican, more like grounded Pelican. The Pelicans are 0-6 to start the season. Their main guys aren't their main guys. And it comes to a point where, what do you do if you are Joe Dumars and the leadership of New Orleans?
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You want to throw $12, $13 million at Kiffin? That's always a possibility. Summerall, they lost the other night to, in that matchup to UTSA. Or do you go back to potentially the mad scientist and Nick Saban, give him, complete control of the athletic department and see if he can turn it around? We'll see. But whatever they go, they're going to need a coach to hit the ground running.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
His daughter, she's on the OF.
Okay.
She's on the OF.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, she's on the OF.
So he's got
now.
an OnlyFans daughter and a little son
who says he can beat Curry and LeBron.
And he's coaching a team that was down 72 to nothing.
Keep that dude away from polite society.
Okay, by the way, I'm with you. I didn't know any of that is.
Numerous pops gotta go.
The Craig Carden Show, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today. I'm Baker Machado, and this podcast is brought to you by Invesco QQQ. In football, changing the game begins with rethinking it, like rethinking how players work on their game. And with wearable tech, advanced analytics, AI, and more, the same innovative thinking that changes the game could also change your portfolio. Invesco QQQ gives you access to the innovators who are rethinking the world. Let's rethink possibility. Well, let's get you caught up on some of the other stories we're following over at the FOS water cooler. And joining me now is Front Office Sports Editor-in-Chief Dan Roberts. Dan, good to see you. How are you?
All right, great.
All right, so let's talk about some of these really interesting headlines, and let's start in the city of Pasadena. They are suing alongside the Rose Bowl UCLA from preventing them from moving their home football games to the newer SoFi Stadium, of course, home to the Rams and the Chargers. That's already escalating, Dan, this brewing fight between these two, where supposedly UCLA is supposed to stay until 2044, and they've been at the Rose Bowl for 40 years.
Yeah, Rose Bowl, the latest move is a TRO, temporary restraining order, to keep them in the stadium. And by the way, I believe this because it's part of this larger effort on the part of college football programs to basically professionalize. I mean, we're seeing the professionalization, the corporatization, if you will, of college football. So the idea of the school thinking, oh, this will be great, we're playing SoFi, which is a professional stadium, makes us kind of even bigger, bolder. Of course, arguably, the Rose Bowl is a better stadium. I mean, the history, you know, the glitz and glam of the Rose Bowl. So it's kind of sad to me that they would think it would be better to play in SoFi Stadium, but the Rose Bowl needs UCLA.
They definitely do, and they say that in the paperwork, saying that they split the ticket revenue because there's not really a lease that UCLA has to pay, but obviously the amount of revenue generated from UCLA being there is hugely important to the city.
They're saying more than $1 billion.
Exactly, and they've done tons of renovations on the Rose Bowl as well, but UCLA could counter and say, look, it's 26 miles away from, you know, where we would play, and SoFi is 12 miles away. This is easier for us, but there's also an argument that UCLA hasn't been bringing a lot of people to the games.
But I would just add too, like, there's a little bit of nostalgia here, the iconic, you know, feel of the Rose Bowl. I mean, I hope that never goes away. So again, a little bit, I don't want to say schlocky, but it's a little bit sad to me, the idea that they would go and move to SoFi Stadium.
Yeah, very good point. Let's move to the ongoing situation with the gambling situation with the feds. Cleveland Guardians pitcher Luis Ortiz appeared in federal court on charges accusing him and teammate Emmanuel Clase of taking bribes to help associates in their native Dominican Republic win prop bets placed on pitches that they threw. Now, Ortiz's lawyer, we should say, says the pitcher is innocent, and he says, Dan, quote, has never and would never improperly influence a game, not for anyone and not for anything. Of course, this comes as the indictments came in the NBA as well, and it's sort of percolating through every sport now.
Well, that's what's so interesting to me is MLB taking action, limiting the total dollar value you can place in bets on specific pitches. I think one kind of side effect of this whole story was regular folks, normie sports fans, realizing, oh, you can bet on specific pitches. That level of granularity, I think a lot of folks didn't even realize was happening. And I do think even if you're non-judgmental, you know, you have no problem with betting or gambling as like a vice, whatever, legal sports betting, you see that and you're like, how deep as a gambler do you have to be betting prop bets on individual pitches? I will say, you know, what has come out as part of this lawsuit or these charges, the text messages between Clase and a bettor, and, you know, he tried to throw a ball, someone actually swung at it. It was a strike. He had a text from supposedly the person allegedly he was involved with, say, you know, a GIF that was like, you blew it. It was a GIF of someone hanging themselves. Hanging themselves with toilet paper. It's like, you know your job here, and your job was to throw a ball, and you blew it. So this is damning evidence. I mean, you could bring up the same thing in the NBA case. Like, look, Billups, Rozier, Damon Jones have all vigorously insisted their innocence. Maybe, but, you know, to the feds, you know, you would think that they're pretty sure if they put on this whole dog and pony show with the press conference, arresting 31 people in 11 different states. Pretty damning.
Well, the baseball players union chief, Tony Clark, came out saying, look, we have to ban prop bets. This is a similar thing that's been echoed in basketball.
Silver,
Charlie
college.
Baker, the NCAA had as well. But do you ever think we're going to get to a point that it is going to be regulated with prop bets just because of how many issues now we've had with players?
Well, look, prop betting was always a thing, especially on the Super Bowl, let's remember. And this is the reason basketball in particular is so susceptible to this, is that, you know, one player can really affect the outcome of the game. So prop bets have been a problem for the NBA. Silver has been saying this for a while, even before the most recent basketball scandal. Let's say they do it and they ban legal betting on prop bets. You're still going to be able to place prop bets the same way you always could through other non-legal methods. You just won't be able to do it on DraftKings and FanDuel. So that's never going to go away, and thus the possibility of a scandal involving a player, since it was already kind of behind closed doors and behind the curtain, that could still very much be a problem. You're not going to suddenly magically fix everything. You might alleviate it a little bit by banning prop bets from the legal sports books. And that's not to brush off these scandals. They're damaging. But I honestly think most people see them as few and far between one-offs. They're isolated incidents. And I don't think the NBA or Major League Baseball are worried about, structural issues with the integrity of the game. By the way, the legal sports betting has also really added to the media dollars.
True.
I mean, the reason arguably the NBA got a $77 million new media deal is that betting helps eyeballs and people are more motivated to watch, supposedly, if you've got skin in the game.
Very good point. Dan Roberts, thank you so much for finally joining us on the
good
Water
fun.
Cooler. And thank you for watching this show for us, and we'll see you next time on Front Office Sports Today.